your accountant should know. But it's absolutely required that these projects have to be done through cost center accounting. You have to be able to, especially when you have more than one project. Okay? You have to have cost center accounting, meaning that all the income for that project and all the expenditure from that project can be seen under that cost center or project center or fund or whatever you want to call it. Not that, you know, the travel goes into travel and the stationery goes into stationery and the food goes into food and so on, and then it all is just income and expense, which is, for regular accounting, that's fine. Then it all gets merged, it gets consolidated with the ISKCON's accounts, and it goes to the income. You know, it's fine. But for this, you need you need to say, okay, this is this project, and we'll get into a little even further into that. It's within the project. You may have sub activities. Okay, the project is youth empowerment. Next sub-project is educational activities. Next is skill development, and so on. So, and in each one of them, there's travel, there's stationery, there's salaries, so these things are in each one of those cost centers. But you can then see, okay, this cost center, we had these expenditures. Any more questions? Yes.
Prabhu, maybe it will be addressed later on, then you could hold the question. In terms of accounting, assuming that we have only one cost center, assuming we have one project, one cost center, and whatever donation we get, we again split it into, for example, specific to our case, value education. So there is a distribution of value education material, there is traveling cost. Now here, whatever traveling we are doing, I mean, the same bills could be used. Is that correct? I mean, the temple spends money on traveling.
Yes.
For example, local conveyance.
Yes.
So a portion of that could be utilized for showing.
The biggest thing with cost accounting, this type of accounting, is it's supposed to match up with your budget. When you present your project to a corporate funder or any funder, the budget for the project is going to be scrutinized. Possibly more than anything else in your proposal, the thing that will be most scrutinized is the budget. What are you going to spend money on? Okay? So your accounting needs to match that. And we'll get a little bit into budgeting. So there may be some expenditure that would you would normally undertake under, you know, just general administrative overheads or something of the temple. But now, because you're out there doing this project, you're going to put it into that project instead of just putting it into the general account. It has to serve the objective. It has.
Just because we need to spend 50,000 on travel doesn't mean that I went to Vrindavan, I can put that bill in there.
No, you don't put your unrelated travel expenses. It's only related expenses that get into that account. Other questions on this stage? Accounting is the next one. Yes, that's coming next. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Prabhu, you mentioned earlier that most of the projects are going to be continuing and not one time. So
we hope so.
So when we say 5 lakh, a small project, I'm assuming it's annual expenditure, 5 lakh, or what exactly?
Yes, it could be an annual expenditure, or, you know, generally we would be talking about an annual, like for example, or it may be a small project. It may be like, for example, installation of a water, drinking water for the public in the Pandharpur, Ghat or something like that. You know, that project is, for 3 lakhs we're going to put that in, etc. It's one-off in the sense it's just happening once, but it's ongoing results. When I say one-off, I'm talking specifically of things like, putting on a convention or a seminar, or like, this training session, for example. Those are not really CSR type of things. But if you're putting in an asset in place, you're putting something in place that's going to continue to work, but it may only take a few lakhs to do, and then it's done. Excuse me? Yes. Excuse me? If it fits into the corporate's CSR policy that they want to do that, and they're there's no restriction like that.
So for maintenance also we can go for CSR, because in case we have started say oil.
Don't say maintenance. Say objective fulfillment. Everything has an object. A project, we'll get into this in the next session, which is on project planning. But when you present a project, you're presenting a project in terms of outputs, results. To get that result, you need to maintain some facility. So it's not for maintenance, it's for that result. It's a different way of thinking. Yeah.
Probably one more question is that the facility, does it have to be in ISKCON's name, or it could be a partnership? For example, a government held facility, but ISKCON wants to do a project on that for mutual benefit.
Yes. We can enter into joint projects with government, with other NGOs. All of this is definitely possible. Thank you. Definitely possible. Yes, Prabhu, behind you.
What if one of the projects that we have undertaken starts to generate some kind of funds, or in terms of profit or something like that?
Yes.
So how do we, keep a transparency in terms of accountability for that, or do we put it in some other account? Like, how do we manage that?
Well, it all depends on, certainly it should be transparent. We don't want to hide anything. But generally speaking, if there's a thought that there will be some income from a project, that should be in the project plan from the beginning. So that's when it's presented to a potential funder, they see that not only is this project going to generate XYZ results with the money that we're putting in, but it's also going to generate money that will help to sustain it over a long run. So, and that's going to make the project more attractive. But if they see that that money's being generated and diverted into some other area which they did not support, then they're going to be very upset with you. So that's the basic response. Any other questions here? Keep thinking, write it down if you have a question. Yes.
I was in a thought process of involving corporates people into the project.
Corporate?
People, employees.
Employees, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, we need a skills, and you have a skills, and okay, you may give some funds, but we want to indirect your manpower. We may be
Yes,
having extra time to do our service maybe once in a month or once in 2 months.
Yes.
Is there a way where we can say, okay, that particular date's salary we will give, you fund us, so you get a CSR, and your employee gets a salary, which you may cut it at your end.
Yes.
Something like that. I just
Yes. This comes into the realm of in-kind contributions, which is a very, very important part of your budgeting process. You're talking about in-kind contribution from a corporate, perhaps. But you, as ISKCON, are going to be making all kinds of in-kind contributions to a particular project. And these need to be noted. Like in-kind contribution could be the space that is being given for the office that's being used for the project. It could be land which is being given by ISKCON. It could be time of volunteers. That's an in-kind contribution. It's not in the accounting. It may not show up in your accounting unless the person is being specifically paid out of the budget. Then it won't show up in the income and expense report, but it will show up as an additional element, in-kind contributions. And it comes in the income and it comes in the expense.
Yeah, but this in kind, a company cannot claim under CSR. The problem is this.
Yes. No,
So to make it claimable in CSR, whether we can have an arrangement where we say we will pay your employee for those days they work, and you give a donation and you cut their salary. So basically, company is not spending anything as such because they were.
I don't have an answer to that. That's something that a account doesn't sound to me like
No,
the
it's like,
it would pass. Does anybody have any? Okay, Rishi, and then
Essentially, what the Christians call tithing and what the Sikh community also does is there is pledging that they all do, the congregation does. Now, this is just corporatizing the tithing process. Most companies will have a serious policy issue in terms of salary account being mixed with the CSR account. So, in general, it is not safe to venture into that area through the CSR process.
yeah, that's my gut feeling is that this sounds like it would be risky. Yes.
Actually, there is one person who has recently joined Annamrita Mumbai by the name Digant Sharma. He is in position of director for resource mobilization. He's exactly working on the same thing what he's talking about, going to the corporates and exactly taking their skills, manpower, especially those who are specifically skilled, those who are on benches. There's many software engineers who are on benches. So exactly utilizing their bench manpower and converting into a CSR thing. He's exactly working upon that. He's here in Mumbai, Annamrita. We don't pay. We don't pay. The corporates themselves pay, and the corporates show in their CSR funds.
I think the corporate can show this as CSR contribution. I think so.
If they can, then there is no.
Yeah, I think they can. So we'll get let's make a note of that. We'll try to get clarification. We're fortunate to have in our CCC team. You'll note on the team list a couple of people, Atul Maturia and Atul Joshi. Atul Maturia is a chartered accountant, very experienced. Atul Joshi is involved in the credit rating bureaus and has a lot of experience with the corporate world. And so we have people that can get into this and find the answers very specifically. Back there.
Thank you, Broji. One thing I wanted to check, like for a project, like we are planning, we are giving time, and sometimes we give free labor also. So if it can be added in the budget also.
Yes, yes. This is your contribution. ISKCON's contribution to the project can be in the form of manpower, it can be in the form of space, it can be in the form of vehicles, it can be in the form, various forms can be there where ISKCON's contributing to the project, and what you contribute can be shown as income in the project. The value of your contribution is shown as income, and the expense is then shown under this particular heading. So this may not appear in the audited statement, but that we're going to work out with the chartered accountants, how to bring this into the audited statement. So that we have to figure out.
This is a profit from CSR?
It's not profit, because you're giving the time. This is you can't just throw time in there, for nothing. But if you are actually honestly giving time to the project, then yes, why not be compensated from the project? Yes.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. Prabhuji, just in case if you want to make the beggars empowered to earn their livelihood, and for that we give them mridanga and teach them kirtan, so that they can earn their livelihood.
Who are you talking about?
The beggars.
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 Oh, that's an interesting project.
So on the street they will do kirtans, and they say holy name will also spread, and they are also earning livelihood for their family. So that way
Skill development.
skill development. So will this be considered as a CSR?
It certainly fits within the category of skill development. Whether or not it would be seen as, that's the type, let's take that as an example. Okay, I would not, if I were contemplating such a project, okay, beggars, we want to give them some employment. They don't have a lot of skills, particularly the handicapped. So I would, first of all, I would focus on handicapped. I would say, okay, we want to do something for the upliftment of handicapped. Now, what's a traditional occupation for the handicapped is music, performance. So I want to give them skills in the area of musical performance. Okay? So what kind of musical performance? Well, this is a very simple, very inexpensive instruments that can be used for musical performance. Very attractive. We can provide the instruments, we can provide the training, and we can facilitate their earning livelihood through musical performance. So it's possible. And just, to make it more attractive, you teach them not only Hare Krishna mantra, but they're taught, how to do kirtan of Jana Gana Mana, what is Indian national anthem, or, something that is, secular, neutral. Probably not ghazals, but. Okay? Any more questions before we go on to accounting? Accounting, as I mentioned, separate bank account, project-wise accounting, and then administrative costs. So the standard that we're suggesting, and it's also become somewhat of a standard in the corporate funding world, is that administrative non-project expenditure. Now this is where it gets, you have to be clear about what is administration and what's not administration. Wherever a person is working for the project, wherever a vehicle is being used for the project, wherever there's travel expenses for the project, wherever there's stationery being printed for the project, wherever there's office space being used for the project which requires electricity and other telephone expenses, but it's used wholly for the project, or maybe several projects and you can divide it into those different projects. This is all project expenditure. When it comes to preparing the audited account statement, that's administrative. When it comes to paying for the office manager, the accountant that handles multiple things, that's administrative. So there's a small amount, should be, and we're suggesting within 5% of the overall project budget is administrative. Now often that 5% it's just taken out of the project account and just transferred into the general fund of ISKCON. That's legitimate. You can just take 5% of the overall project cost and just take it out and just transfer it over to ISKCON. That's my understanding. We'll get this all fully clarified, but basically that's done. 5%, okay, it just goes in, because ISKCON has its all kinds of overheads that you can't itemize. And one of those things in that 5% will be a contribution towards the CCC. They said, Haribol! So we are coming up with a little bit of a formula that money that you receive from the CCC, I'm not from the CCC. We're not giving you any money. We're going to get it.
This time the Haribol was louder.
Yes. money that you receive for CSR, under CSR, we'll come up with a certain percentage, 1%, 2%, depending on the size of the funding, that will come back to this office in order for us to cover the expense of running an office, of staffing an office, okay, and providing services. Now, we may also provide some other services that you pay on a fee system, like project development or like that. That's separate. You wanted to say something? No. Okay. So that's administrative costs. Any questions about that? Yes.
Hare Krishna. So, Prabhuji, if my project is school,
Yes.
so basically the funds which we get from students, so majority of those funds, they are being spent on the salary of the teachers.
Yes.
So if I'm preparing a report for CSR, so if I'm launching with a scheme of, say, sponsor a child, so if they can pay for the whole amount of the fees of the children, and so can I in the administrative cost show that we are paying this much salary to the teachers also, so I can receive
No,
funds
you
for
wouldn't
the
do that because this, let's step back a second. When you're formulating your project for presentation to a corporate, all of that you just described, the fees from the students, the salaries to the teachers, this is all going to come under the project budget. These are direct project expenses. They're not overheads. They're direct project expenses. So, but that overall project, you can put on an additional 5% for administrative costs that goes into ISKCON's general fund.
That's okay, but here it seems there is an extra benefit. My point is, say if I'm collecting 10,000 rupees from a student for 1 year of education, and out of those 10,000, if I've got 100 students, so it comes to almost 10 lakh rupees of fees in a year we are collecting, and out of those 10 lakhs, 6 lakhs we are spending as salary for teachers.
Yes.
So if I collect 10 lakh directly in the name of education to students and 6 lakhs separately in the name
6
of
lakhs separately?
as salary to teachers, we are paying this much salary also.
That would be a very awkward presentation.
Yeah.
And a corporate would look at that and say, what are you doing? What's going on here? You're running a school, you're collecting fees, and it's the whole thing. Yeah, okay, they may say, we want to support the enhancement of salaries for teachers, or we want to support the reduction of fees for students, wherever they're interested. But they should see the whole picture. And they should see where they fit into the whole picture. Don't separate things out like that. That's doesn't look good. It looks like, why? What are you trying to do here? It doesn't look good. Any other questions on accounting? I'm sure there's going to be more and more questions about accounting and finances and so on. And that's what we're here for in the CCC, to answer these questions and to help you. You pass the mic over here.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. As it usually happens when we are getting some funds from any corporate as a CSR, so that particular company asks for the some certificate of exemptions like ATG or 135, whatever is the case may be. So the donation received under the CSR and the certificate issued against those donations. So we need to put a separate balance sheet or returns file for the ATG on 135SC, or we club it with the normal.
No, the ADG receipt is normal.
Okay.
It's same as any other receipt, any other donation that you receive. So corporates do get some benefit by channeling their money through ADG entities. That's one of their incentives, to work with a partner organization as opposed to. Now this may change. The income tax is a little You know, because they don't give CSR expenditure, unlike say advertising. Advertising can be directly offset against as an expense. It can be directly expensed in the company's balance sheet or their income and expense account. So they end up paying no tax on money that they spend on advertising. So when this law first came into effect, companies were saying, hey, wait a minute, you know, we're spending this money, we should just deduct it from our taxable income. And they was told, no, you can't do that. You still have to pay tax on it. But if you give the money to another organization and they spend it on your behalf or they partner with you, then as of now, my understanding is it is tax deductible under ADG. But as I said, the mood of the income tax could change there. But that's the current situation. You don't need to have it separate. Yes.
One more question and information rather from your side. It was discussed in the media that 135 AC is going to be removed